Hello and welcome. You're watching DD India's special show, Jammu and Kashmir Chooses Democracy. I'm Gautam Roy. Well, 3 phases of polling in Jammu and Kashmir have been concluded successfully and peacefully, with the overall turnout crossing the 66.78% participation witnessed in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll explore what this means in a region where terrorism used to rule the roost. But the people have now seemed to have moved away from fear and violence to choose democracy. The 1st of October witnessed the third and final phase of polling being held in India's centrally administered region, Jammu and Kashmir. The Election Commission updated the turnout figures to 69.65% late at night, adding that all 3 phases in the Union Territory were concluded incident-free without any repoll being ordered anywhere. Counting will be held on the 8th of this month. Here's a report.
The third phase of Jammu and Kashmir Assembly elections witnessed an impressive turnout as voters in large numbers came out to cast their ballots with enthusiasm. Voting was held on 40 seats across 7 districts of Jammu, Udhampur, Samba and Kathua in the Jammu region and Baramulla, Bandipora and Kupwara in North Kashmir in the third phase. In many polling stations, long queues were seen since morning, signaling the public's desire to have their voices heard. Men, women and even elderly voters were eager to play their part in the democratic process. Paramilitary forces and local police ensured smooth elections. Voters' spirits remained high throughout the day.
We want to change now. The election is going on. The people are participate about the 65%, 70%. It's a big below in our India in this state. So we will vote.
The youth wants development, prosperity, and else. That is why everyone you looking here is casting their vote, their precious vote for the development of the society and the community.
According to India's Election Commission, the overall turnout figures for the region's assembly elections have been higher than 68.78% registered during the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. The first phase saw 61.38% of the UT's 8.82 million voters exercising their franchise. 57.31% turnout was registered in the second phase, and the third phase saw the highest turnout among all the 3 at 69.65%. Apart from the main political parties like the Jammu and Kashmir National Conference, the People's Democratic Party, the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Congress, political participation also saw a significant increase. Compared to the last assembly elections held in the region in 2014, the number of candidates went up by 7%. Independents rose by 26% and registered unrecognized parties jumped by 71%. Even separatists who used to boycott elections earlier jumped into the fray. Clearly, the first assembly elections in the region after 10 years and 5 years after the abrogation of Article 370, which took away its special status and statehood, have shown tremendous affinity among the people of J&K to return to democracy from the days of stone pelting and terrorism sponsored by forces from across the border in Pakistan. 5 years of central rule has brought unprecedented funds and investments for the development of the region, and the people want more. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining us to talk about the successful and peaceful holding of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly elections and what does it mean for the Union Territory going forward and Pakistan's failure to either disrupt the democratic process or raise international hackles about it are 2 expert guests, Ambassador D.P. Srivastava, former senior diplomat and distinguished fellow Vivekananda International Foundation and author of Forgotten Kashmir, The Other Side of the Line of Control, and Lieutenant General retired Syed Ata Hasnain, who's commanded the Indian Army's 15th Corps in Jammu and Kashmir as well. Now, if I could first come to you, Ambassador Srivastava, and welcome to the show. Now, does the incident-free holding of elections in Jammu and Kashmir with an impressive turnout really connote the success of India's Election Commission along with the administration which ran the affairs? But at the same time, does it also mean that Pakistan failed to somehow sabotage it or in some way hamper it?
It is, first of all, a success of India's democracy, and it shows the maturity of the Kashmiri electorate, which have rejected the Pakistani support to terrorism. How did terrorism succeed in the past? Because there was a certain amount of receptiveness. And this time, it may be noticed that there were no terror incidents in the valley, which is where the highest Muslim population is. Terror incidents which took place were in Jammu, which was closer to the LOC, and it was probably easier in logistics terms for the Pakistanis to infiltrate their chaps. But the fact that they could not do it in the valley, that means the people in the valley have rejected the Pakistani message because they have seen what Pakistan and Pakistani army has done to its own people. Last year, they were, almost an uprising against the Pakistan army. The general headquarters was attacked, and the corps commander's residence was burned down. Incidentally, one interesting figure which I would like to give to you. As you mentioned earlier, the turnout has been very high, 58% for the Lok Sabha, and in the three segments of assembly elections, it has varied from 61 to 57 to 60, as high as 69%.
The highest number was in the last phase. Now you compare it with the voter turnout in Pakistan in last election. It was 47.4%. So Kashmir election is way higher, and the incidence of voter turnout in Pakistan is going down. The elections before, in 2013, the voter turnout was 52. It came down from 52 to 47. So that shows the difference, that people of the Jammu and Kashmir have been given freedom to participate in democratic processes, and they have taken it up enthusiastically. Right. Now, General Hasnain, how crucial is the security dimension in all this? The fact that civilian deaths and terror incidents in Kashmir have come down from 55 in 2018 to 40 until July this year. The story is similar when you talk about deaths among security personnel. Incidents of stone pelting are next to nothing now, and strikes have come down to 0 from every other day just a few years ago.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for inviting me for your program. It's a very interesting and a very important program. I have been observing and experiencing the Jammu and Kashmir elections for the better part of the last 30 years, almost you can say 28 years. Almost every time that Jammu and Kashmir has gone to the polls, I have been in some capacity or the other, been involved there. I can say unequivocally, the most striking thing is, even from your photographs, from your visuals, the comparative low density of the footprint, the stamp of the security forces. You will find the voters in strength. That is the most heartening thing. Because earlier, everything depended on security. The whole idea of the terrorists was, the separatists was, to somewhat in some way or the other, send home a message to the voters that there would be violence at their particular booths. And there would be low turnout, even if the people wanted to come. And I can assure you, many people wanted to vote even at that time. But there was no way that they could be persuaded to vote, because they didn't want to get affected by this kind of violence. And this has been a very, very heartening thing. So from a security angle, there's no doubt about it. I remember the 1999 elections, standing at the high ground of Avantipur, I could observe the whole of South Kashmir virtually burning. There must have been 14 to 15 incidents of grenade throwing, booth capturing, rocket fires of security forces, etc. which were going. And in that kind of an environment, who would want to come out and vote? Now, the most striking thing at this moment here is a complete absence of violence. That is the most important thing, and has come about not overnight. The last 5 years and a little before that, I think the government of India has gone into this very professionally, dismantled many of the networks which existed here, the financial networks which used to run the complete stone throwing programs, many of the drug programs, Nexus, which were at that time there. The media itself, to a very great extent, the separatist media has been dismantled. And all this has made a huge difference. Not to say that good leadership on the part of the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, of course, from the central government, the Home Minister and the Honorable Prime Minister, from every angle, the leadership has been very, very focused. And then the security forces have brought their presence in a very, very big way to this. So altogether, it's a whole of government approach. The whole of government approach which has resulted in this. But I may end this part of my intervention with a note of cautionary. You must still remember that the absence of violence is not normalcy. Because things are still, there could still be issues which may come up. There could be lingering thoughts and ideas on the other side of the line of control. We have seen what has happened in the Jammu region in the recent past, and therefore we need to make sure that whatever we are doing in terms of democracy, the return of democracy to Jammu and Kashmir, we must take this forward in the form of other aspects of security.
Certainly. And although what is happening is that you noted that Pakistan's toolkit to a large extent has been disabled where Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Now, Ambassador Srivastava, it's not as if Pakistan has not tried to vitiate the atmosphere. Just recently internationalized the issue. Shahbaz Sharif mentioned how abrogation was mentioned in the UNGA as well. Now, what has Islamabad done itself in Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan? Does it even look within?
That's a very interesting question. Pakistan, India is, Article 370's deletion is criticized that Ladakh was hived off. Pakistan partitioned the territory under its illegal control into POK and northern area way back in 1947. Till 1970, this area was being run as a departmental undertaking by Ministry of Kashmir Affairs. There were no elections for 25 years. When the elections took place and a constitution was adopted in 1974, what Pakistan did, that along with the elected assembly, they created a parallel structure which was called Kashmir Council, headed by Pakistani Prime Minister. And the constitution of POK vested all powers not in the elected assembly but in the council headed by Pakistani Prime Minister. So this was called rule by proxy. 4 decades later, Pakistan changed this. Kashmir Council was relegated to advisory role in 2018, but its powers were not transferred to elected assembly. Its powers now have been directly taken over by Pakistan. Government. So the result is that POK situation is much worse than that of a, you can say, union territory, because at least a state or province or union territory has its own, state subjects. Even those state subjects are now being exercised by powers on state subjects are exercised by Islamabad. And the situation of Gilgit-Baltistan is even worse, because in 2018, the same year this change which I mentioned took place in POK, Gilgit-Baltistan order of 2018 vested all powers in the person of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. This is like, Congo's situation before First World War. It was not simply a Belgian colony. It was a personal state of King Leopold. So now both the changes, that is Pakistan taking over all internal powers as well within POK and Gilgit-Baltistan, took place in 2018, a year before deletion of Article 370, which Shahbaz Sharif criticized in UN General Assembly. Unfortunately, what they have done...
And why this sort of an iron grip?
Because they are afraid of their own people. And especially on Gilgit-Baltistan, because Gilgit-Baltistan is a strategic area. That is where CPEC enters Pakistan and Indus River enters Pakistan. If India had not lost control of this area in 1947, we would have had geographical contiguity with Afghanistan and there would have been no CPEC. So, having realized the strategic importance of this area, Pakistan has always controlled it even more severely than POK, and
people have borne the brunt of it. Now, General Hasnain, how stark is the difference between how the Indian government has worked for the development of Jammu and Kashmir since the abrogation, especially since the abrogation, to what Pakistan has been doing in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan?
See, Gautam, there's no doubt about it that after 2019, the 5th of August, the abrogation of Article 370, the government of India has worked very, very adroitly on the socio-economic charter. Prior to that, for many years, of course, work was going on all the time, but a lot of focus used to be on the security aspects. That, fortunately, after 2019, while the Indian Army, the state forces, the central police forces, etc., took a step backwards and held the periphery, it was the socio-economic charter which started working itself out. And that is what has led to tremendous amount of interest, development, the bringing in of tourism, etc. Now, contrast this with the state of things which are there in POK. I was the commander of the Uri Brigade at one time in the early part of the millennium. I can assure you this, when the Muzaffarabad road was opened by the government of India, the government of Pakistan, to bring about, better relationship, etc., we saw the quality of people who were coming out from there. We spoke to them many times. That was the first contact we had with the people from there. And it is they who brought it very, very clearly to our notice the kind of difference which existed from the Indian side to the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir side. Even while talking to people in track 2 diplomacy with senior officials of the Pakistan Armed Forces, the diplomatic forces, etc., services, etc., it is very clear, and they off the table always admit that everything about the Indian side, what they call Kashmir and the Indian side of Kashmir, is obviously of a much, much higher order. You see the kind of, today 93 flights are landing in Srinagar every day. Can you imagine this kind of a thing in Muzaffarabad? Muzaffarabad doesn't even have an international airport. I'm not sure even if they've got a national airport as such. So that itself is a stark difference which can project itself.
Certainly. Now, Ambassador Srivastava, from time to time, Pakistan has also raised the issue of plebiscite in Kashmir and self-determination. Now, how much freedom and autonomy do people in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan really have? How elections held over there? And for that matter, are Kashmir's political parties which talk about, having dialogue with Pakistan, are they not aware of what's really happening there?
I mentioned earlier that Pakistan had partitioned POK and taken over direct administration of northern areas way back in 47, and northern areas are 85% of the area of this POK. Now, this major change was kept secret. Why? Because Pakistan had changed the territorial status quo without plebiscite. So this really shows what it is. Now, in my book, Forgotten Kashmir, I brought it out that plebiscite was formally offered 3 times. In 1947 by Mountbatten to Jinnah, in 1950 by Owen Dixon, a UN mediator, and 1953 bilaterally. All 3 occasions, UN reports confirm that India was willing, Pakistan went back, and the reason, there was a military operation going on against the people of POK by Pakistan Army. The reason, because Pakistan dismissed the first president of POK, Sardar Ibrahim, in 1950, and which led to what is called Sudhan revolt by his tribe, which lasted for a decade, and the Muslim Conference gave a memorandum to Pakistan Constituent Assembly complaining of mass murder and so on, and use of heavy caliber guns against civilian population. This was the reason, when the situation was so disturbed on its own side, that Pakistan could not accept plebiscite. Now coming,
they would have lost the plebiscite.
They would have lost the plebiscite. Now coming quickly to the current situation, the contrast you see. In India, it's National Conference and PDP who have been in power and who have run the state government for much of the time. In POK, Muslim Conference, which was a party which supported Kashmir's accession to Pakistan, it's now, in the last election, it got 1 seat out of 53 in the 53 seat house. So who exercises power? The power rotates between local chapters of 3 national parties, PPP, PMLN and PTI. So, it's like as if, it's basically Islamabad's Ritz. It's as if,
Punjab parties.
Only Congress and BJP ran the Jammu and Kashmir. Here, the regional aspirations are expressed by regional parties, and that is the main difference between the two sides. Now, your last part was, you mentioned that
Are they not aware?
The political parties in India, they are
The ones who
in
want
Kashmir,
dialogue with Pakistan.
who are asking for a dialogue with Pakistan, they are very much aware. And if somebody is not aware, they can read my book published by HarperCollins, which is all based on Pakistani sources and international sources, and that too Pakistani government sources. Now, why are they still asking it? Because this is simply playing with the future of people of Kashmir. If the Pakistani government and Pakistani army cannot take care of their own people, there have been food riots across Pakistan. There were food riots and protests over bijli, which is electricity, which is an item it's an essential item, in which there were large-scale violence and killings in POK. So this is all in public domain. So haven't these people learned their lesson?
That's a open question, really. Now, General Hasnain, what sort of a message does the holding of peaceful and successful elections in Jammu and Kashmir send out to the people of POK in Kyrgyzstan, the people of Pakistan, and indeed the entire world?
See, Gautam, if I may take a few seconds just to answer the last part of your previous question too. It's important to understand why are these people, why are the political parties, some of them in Jammu and Kashmir, harping on this issue of talks with Pakistan, etc. There seems to be a mistaken notion somewhere among these political parties that there is an element of separatism which is there embedded in their electorate. That unless they appeal to that aspect, they are not going to get those votes for themselves. They feel that if they keep talking about Pakistan, if they keep talking about the links with Pakistan, there is an intrinsic kind of affection which the basic Kashmiri part of the Kashmiri electorate has for Pakistan. This is a mistaken notion, completely wrong. The longer you stay in Jammu and Kashmir, the longer you go and engage with people at the lower level, they make it very, very clear to you there is no truth in this at all. And I think the earlier these parties withdraw from this notion, the better it will be for the overall integration of the parties and for the rest of the region with the rest of India. As far as the importance of the elections are concerned and whether the people in POK are watching and wondering what next, well, you will just have to visit Jammu and Kashmir today to understand the stark difference. As I said, you can go to the line of control, look across and see the kind of difference which is there in the development indices, basics of power, for example. You will see very well lit villages on our side. On the other side, nothing of that kind exists. As I told you, people on the other side are always looking forward to. There was a time when Indians used to look, when Indians looked for goods coming from Pakistan or from through Pakistan occupied Kashmir, etc. The exact reverse of that is true. So when elections are held here, free and fair, the Indian television projects them in the manner in which it does, free and fair, transparently, completely. Everyone on the other side looks aside and says, why aren't we a part of that?
Right.
And I can tell you this is a natural process which is taking place. India does not have to move a finger, move a finger more. For all those who think that you got to militarily get onto POK to get it back into India, let me assure you, the people of POK equally want to come back here and will do so in the times to come.
Yes, certainly. And Ambassador Srivastava, another interesting aspect is Pakistan has been a nation on IMF, China and some other Islamic countries' life support system for a while. Now it's chosen the path of repression to smother the aspirations of people in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan so far. But they've also been fighting back. And do you see a scenario where they can be free of the yoke of Pakistan? Can they break free at some point?
You know, Pakistan has received 24th IMF assistance package. And the interesting part is that this time, the bilateral donors, you mentioned some of the Islamic countries and China, they were not willing to put their money on the table without IMF coming in. So there is that much of lack of trust in Pakistan's capacity to repay the loan, even on part of its closest friends, like all-weather friend like China.
Well, Imran Khan, who's in jail now, he refused to abide by the conditions that he had agreed to the IMF. So why should they why should anyone trust them?
I know, and it was difficult to find a closure of this IMF package, because IMF wanted at least $6 billion, which was a difference between IMF assistance and Pakistani requirement, to be put by these bilateral donors, and Pakistan could get only about $3 billion. So IMF, gave it a lenient treatment and decided to waive that condition. Now, coming back to the second part of your question, whether these people of POK can sometime break free, they would not be able to break free for the simple reason they are less than 5% of Pakistan's population. Pakistan's existence depends on its control of the region. I mentioned CPEC, it enters Pakistan through what is called Gilgit-Baltistan now. It was originally called Northern Area, and the Indus water comes to Pakistan. It's an agrarian society. But there's another interesting question, and that is whether how long Pakistan will remain a state. We wish them well, but this is a country going down the tube. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's leave it at that for the moment, and hope that the elections in Jammu and Kashmir move forward the entire region towards further progress, so that it becomes the kind of example that we want the world to see for how a region that has been contested for so long can move forward from an era of violence towards peace and prosperity. Thank you for joining us for the moment, Ambassador Srivastava, as well as General Hasnain. Well, that's about it as far as this show is concerned, and we will keep bringing you all the latest from the country and the world as well right here on DD India. You can also download our mobile app that is can be downloaded from both iOS and Android using those QR codes. And we'll be coming back to you with all the latest that is breaking here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching this special show.